So one thing that you guys will note is under company, quote settings are gone now. After you've upgraded, everything is moved over to this idea of scopes of work. This has allowed us to add more layers of structure to the data. And this is, this is a matter of, you can create, different scope groups for different kinds of services that you provide, like commercial cleaning versus residential. And you can create different labor pools, which allows you, when you're doing your planning, to see how much labor you have available for each type of scope of work. This gets very complex, but we'll try and get through all the settings that makes all of this possible. Let's say you ran multiple branches. I know Trisha's here that has 3 branches. She could have scope groups for each of her branches and have unique, when she's doing her sales, be selling to each of the labor pools that she has in availability for that. So this, without even having to use there's one level even above what we're all talking about here, which is you can have branches in Made Central where you have different offices. You can still create some of that structure with this. Without getting too deep into the weeds here, on the first page, this is where all of the different types of scopes of work that you've created that existed before are set. So the old service set types that you had, like commercial versus residential, are here. And then the scopes that you had underneath those are here. So like whole house deep clean versus general, those exist nested below. I want you all to go to this page. So again, remember, company, scopes of work. If you haven't upgraded yet, we'll have this recorded that you can look at this later. Before we dive into actually setting up a quote, I want to just show some other structure here under the general settings. So you can create a default type of scope that you're going to do for your office. So if you want to quote residential cleaning in your office as the default scope group, you can still quote all the other different things, but this one would be highlighted by default. Okay. Residential cleaning for online. You can have it. You can have a separate thing that you're quoting for online. You can do a zip code text box for office quoting, and I would recommend that. That would basically mean that there'd be a question first asking what the zip code is for the quote. And if you put in a zip code that you don't service, it'll create a pop-up for your office telling them this person is not in your service area. So I would recommend doing that. I would also recommend checking this display manual address inputs for office. So if Google can't find the address for some reason, I would check this so you can actually just type in the address, because otherwise, I'm not clear, Rebecca, if you don't have that and Google can't find the address, you can't really move forward, can you?
Not if you don't have the option to just use the fill in the blank field.
Yep. So I recommend having that checked. And maybe we end up making that not even a choice, because, in some areas where where you guys are, where like houses are being built every 30 seconds, the address might not be in Google, and so that doesn't really help you when somebody's like doing a new construction clean and they're asking you to clean this address that Google doesn't have yet. So this is also where you can set the notifications that are going to be default. They're going to be created for these customers that you sell with the new quoting tool. This does not affect your existing customers. This only affects sales that you create from this point forward. So when you are creating a sale, in this instance, we're going to send a reminder a day before, an email 3 days before, and an on the way text message. You can have as many of these checked as you want. Just remember that you can overload your customers with too much information. You're going to want to save these general settings once that's set. The next thing to kind of keep in mind here is the questions. Questions are a powerful feature in quoting, because you can have questions that affect pricing, and those can be displayed during the pricing, before pricing. This is all very variable. So like things like if you're using a dirt code, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how dirty is your home? Anybody use that kind of thing, logic in their quoting? Okay, Do you quote, so Em, I see your hand up. Do you do that for your customers when you sell them online, or is that just for internal quotes?
Right now, it's only for internal.
Okay, so you can have it both internal or external. So you can create a question here that multiplies the time by, or you can add a fixed rate of time, or multiply the input by. So there's explainers here on all of these, but multiply time by. This option takes the total calculated minutes and multiplies that by a factor. So that would be an example of if you had, if it was like a dirt code of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, and somebody was a 5, and you said that it would multiply it by 1.5, it would increase the time 50% because of that, right? If you do a fixed rate of time, for every one of the choices that you select here, it would add 20 minutes because there's because of they're on a dirt code of 3, so it adds 60 minutes. And then this one is the one that is the trickiest to me, and I still haven't quite grasped where I would use this one. Multiply the input by minutes. So this would be like if you put in like 3, it would multiply the then it would multiply it by the number that you put in there. So if you put in 3 and you had a input of 15 minutes, you could add 45 minutes to the job. Again, it gets really into the weeds with all of this, but the general idea is that these can create factors for your job. So like if you're using a dirt code, 1 to 3 might be your 1, 4 to 6 might add 15%, 7 to 10 might add 25% to the job. I don't know exactly how to do this because I've never used a dirt code. I'm open to learning those from those of you that are doing it, because I haven't done it and it seems like a good idea. It's just something I have not adopted in my business. If you are going to be doing this online, all of these questions can have help text, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how cluttered is your home, or how much catch-up cleaning. If you wanted to do this for an online question, you can change the name of it. You can add an icon to this online question. I'm not sure if we have one that would be perfect for a dirt code. We're going to continually adding to these. So technically, all of you are in the final beta group. This is going live to the production community next week. You all have additional ability to have some input and also get some more training before the whole general population comes onto the software starting over the next couple of weeks. So if you see any additional icons you'd like to add, please give us some feedback on that. There's other feedback we'd like from all of you during this process. So I don't really see one that's perfect here. I'm just going to take this parking car space one. You can add an icon color and save that if you were selling that online. So there's a lot of opportunities to add some customability of all of these questions. The final thing on the front page here is the iframes. This is how you can install these on your web page. So without getting into the weeds too much on the iframes, is you can make adjustments to this URL slightly. There's adjustments you can make to the height of the iframe that you want to install on your website by changing the pixels here. I would not adjust this one. And on the scrolling, depending on the way your website is set up, you may need to change this to yes for it to react well with the way your website is set up. So some of this depends on your web developer. So if you give this code here under iframes to your web developer, just hit copy iframe code, send it over to them. They should know what to do to basically install this on your site and get good results.